Okay, we're starting our recording now for the purposes of our friends who can't make it because of family and work reasons. So we're recording this meeting tonight, as we do every Monday night, because the information we're sharing with you, we only can receive it from FAIRWORK or these courthouses. So thank you for joining us on this Monday night, the 18th of July 2022. You have joined the Educate for Protection Monday Night Opens seminar. Our job is to educate and empower you to fight for your human rights, which are all but taken from us. They are all but gone because they do not recognise them in the courthouses. They do not accept them in industrial relation commissions or fair work commissions anymore. It's almost been taken away from us right before our eyes. Our job is to prevent people from harm. And this is what's happening right now. So you are receiving the best information we have learned because we actually fight in the courts. We've been into the Supreme Court of New South Wales. We're going into FAIRWORK in the next 2 days, and we actually deal with these questions that we deal with because we actually stand up. Okay, that's where we come from. Tonight's topic is the EFP AHPRA FAIRWORK update. I'm putting two subjects together because they overlap and they come together. We are starting on the 18th of July in this process because we have now got a date in another matter coming up, which will keep you informed, and we've got to tell you about FAIRWORK. If you know any friends or family who've been through this process, they need to hear what this meeting is about tonight because I am certain they have been misled and deceived because the lawyers are trying to minimize the payouts at our expense, and we have uncovered what they're doing. We are Australians fighting for our human rights because we can't find any lawyers anywhere who will touch these subjects because they will lose their license. And I've got to make this disclaimer for the purposes of our recording is we are at EFP, we are not lawyers. We don't masquerade as lawyers. We don't have to dress like them. We are not lawyers because we are advocates fighting for our human rights. And I stand up in courts and commission meetings and I make that very clear, and they don't know what to say next when I go after them, when I say to them what we have uncovered for your right to be paid out in full according to the existing broken statute laws. That's a law without a queen, and this is where we come from. We have to make this very, very clear because we have disclaimers because the world is becoming such a law-ridden place as far as people trying to sue everybody. So we have to make this disclaimer for the record. We educate and empower you to fight for your human rights, which is in the laws in Australia and in our treaty rights at the United Nations. Our disclaimer is we are more effective than a legal practitioner because we're not lawyers. Because we're not lawyers, we can say things that a lawyer cannot go there. We are not restricted in arguing and fighting for your human rights under the Charter of Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. We have people going into court and they do not remember, they do not take with them Article 7 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. You must give consent for a medical experiment. You have that right. As an Australian, we signed up to this treaty 42 years ago. And it matters not which part or corner of Australia you live in, you all have access to Section 10 of the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act in Victoria, which says you must give consent to be part of a medical experiment. This is what we push on our Zoom meetings and our discussions. You have these two rights wherever you live in Australia. If you live in the west or the north of Victoria or the south, you have access through your Supreme Court. That's it. And they can't block it because every Supreme Court has access to every other state case or law across the country, and there's no restriction. We fight on the question of fact that treason by law enforcement and the courthouses is being concealed every day. We are using the criminal charges pending document against Dan Andrews in Sydney and in Western Australia in Perth, and they don't have an answer. Why? Because it affects the whole country. It's not restricted by border. And this is what's happening right now. We are human rights advocates under the laws and treaty fighting for our families, because no lawyer can touch human rights. They will lose their license. Our job is to preventing people from harm, which is being driven from outside of our country. And I've said this in public, and I've received so many cold showers from social media from people who don't understand. Because we do our research, and we do know we've lost our constitution. When we've lost our constitution, we've lost our homes, we've lost our rights for working, we've lost our rights to stand in a courthouse. Because there's no such thing in this country as a court. And I argued this a week ago. And everybody said, I'm lying, I'm scaremongering. I can back it up. The High Court of Australia has an ABN and it pays GST. I've done this in PowerPoint presentations. I'm not talking about it tonight. We need to understand what they are. They're a bank branch. They're there to make money. And that's where we're coming from. Please just take in this information. We've got all these basic slides going to be turned into an A4 Word document. So the important slides will be there for you to download tomorrow. I want to share this information. There's nothing secret about what I'm talking about. That's why this is the Monday night open meeting. This is for anybody you know, family or friends, because this is what's happening to us. We are being misled. I could say fraudulently misled, and it's the same thing, but this is the point. So all these information slides which are of value will be available tomorrow morning. And all this information tonight will be on reference. Once the video is uploaded onto Teachables, which should be done overnight, the accompanying fact sheets will be available. And the web links, emails, and contact details will be available at the same time. So please don't worry about trying to take down notes. I just want you to hear the message, and I am happy to share everything tonight. And the documents I can't share is because we haven't yet gone into the courtroom to deal with this and deliver the package. And that's what I'm going to show you tonight. Purpose of tonight's meeting. This is explaining the course of action within our community. And we've got people who are watching, we've got people who are looking and sitting on the fence because they still don't believe where we're going to. And we are prosecuting the fact that there is no national law for a company to force you to take a vaccination, which is now called, funnily enough, a bioweapon. And that's not my word, that's from the United States. So we're here to talk to you about our weekly update, what happened at the AHPRA tribunal last week, and the Supreme Court hearing last week. You are not going to get this on the news. You won't get this from anywhere else because we are on top of this. The unlawful dismissal question. What is happening at FAIRWORK and these kangaroo courts? They have no judges, they have no recourse, there's no recordings, it's arbitrary, meaning a group of unqualified people are determining people's livelihoods. It's that simple. They are not qualified. They're not legal people. And we've got people going into industrial relations commissions and mediations, and none of them are even remotely close to having any legal knowledge. And that's where they're in trouble because of what we say to them. We're going to discuss a very key point. It doesn't matter where you live in Australia. We're going to be talking about the 2018 Victorian state election writ. And we need your help whichever state or territory you live in, to do the same process to get your last state election writ to show you and demonstrate to you what has happened. Our governor in Victoria, Linda Dessau, is no longer and never has been a governor. This affected the federal election result that she did not sign the paperwork. It was signed by the Premier of Victoria, who also happens to have criminal charges pending. This is why we need to get this message out. The paperwork is working. It works better interstate than in Victoria because they're trying to hide it. Then I'm going to be discussing, for the purpose of our recording, how to join the people's class actions. It doesn't matter if you're not a medical professional, but you have been affected by your family not being able to get medical treatment. You can join the medical professionals class action. There is no entry requirement. You don't have to be in that industry. And then we'll discuss how we're trying to pull this together, but we're just not there at this point in time. We're going to explain to you about people coming to us and saying, why do we have to challenge for our fines? I said, if you wanted to pay them, that's your right. If you do not want to pay a tax invoice, you have a right to challenge. And with the criminal charges pending documents, none of our people have paid fines yet. And we don't intend that to change because it's fraud. I will say that word quite often. It's all fraud. So if we don't make a stand about what is going on now, it's going to only become worse. Why? Because it's all fraudulent, from the courts to the lawyers to the corporations, all the way down. Then I'm going to cover over something to capture and say where we're heading. We're going to explain why we're looking to bring together 12 people for a jury. And it's amazing how our friends in New South Wales are starting jury groups now faster than in my own state of Victoria. This is when people are listening and they're saying, we are going to do this because we understand they've gone to court. We are looking to then bring those numbers together for grand jury. The American people do treasure and they will fight for their grand jury rights. We have almost lost our grand jury rights to convene 23 people as a minimum. That's the minimum number to hold a grand jury group, to make a decision, debate, and then make a discussion around who has breached your family's rights under treason. This is really important because only Victoria has the right to force grand jury and give it to us back through our Supreme Court of Victoria. We need to develop the mindset of a Dutch farmer. If you do not know what I just said, please go online and put into your browser Dutch farmer, and you will find an unbelievable amount of information, what the Dutch farmers have done in teaching the rest of Europe to come together and stand as one. We are not there yet. That's why I'm saying we haven't got that mentality of the Dutch farmers whose livelihoods are at risk. There are reports that the government is saying that farmers have to kill 95% of their livestock to reduce emissions. This is ridiculous without having consideration what that will mean to the supermarket shelf. It's going to empty the shelves very, very quickly. Then we're going to take your questions and answers because I need to hear your feedback, what's going to happen next, because no one else will dare to talk about these subjects. This is the weekly update about this case in the tribunal. There's a lot of people saying different things about it's gone upside down, it was the wrong way, and should have been done from the top down, and we've gone from the bottom up. Okay, to keep it nice and simple, Maria has been on Zoom, she's been talking about her story, she's been in public in front of groups, saying that she followed the process of going to an AHPRA mediation, no qualified legal people. They made a decision called a determination, which has no valid point in law. It's just a determination by a group of people who are unqualified. So the reason was then, by AHPRA's own website, you have to take it to a tribunal. A tribunal has no power. A tribunal can only deal with a matter inside a state. And that's where we are right now, waiting for our next date, which will be in the 3rd week of August. It's been confirmed today, to make our statement. There is no such thing as a national law for health. The moment you say national, the tribunal can't go any further. And they're trying to stop her to go higher into a courthouse. Why? Because she has more powers, more options, and she can make bigger claims against the company where you can't do that in a tribunal. So Maria is a member of our community, and she's receiving, as I am, calls from medical professionals following her false start. What happened last week? She was going to make her appeal, submitted an affidavit with a claim. If you don't have a claim, you're going nowhere. Someone's got to make a claim for something and the other side have to make a counterclaim. It's not about asking for justice or what's fair. That's gone. It's over. You have to make a claim for something. And we did that. So no notice was given to her to change the date without her knowing from next Monday to the middle or the end of August. This is what they're doing when we are pushing back and we don't have enough support. There are lots of medical people who've been suspended. Some have been suspended indefinitely with no end date because they don't have an answer. And we are not able to think like a Dutch farmer and come together yesterday. And this is holding us back. We submitted her affidavit with her compensation calculation claim, which is her fee schedule. And we've now got this paperwork in the courtroom. And they don't have an answer to rebut it. Tribunal orders were made and issued 2 days later without a new date to return. So last Monday, we were sitting on the phone waiting for someone to appear. Nothing happened. 2 days later, they came back and said, we'll get back to you. Anybody in our meeting tonight who's been to court, you know you don't leave without a date to come back. That didn't happen with Maria. We got the answer this afternoon to come back in 5 weeks. This is a concern for them because we're ready and they're not. This now gives our courageous lady the time to issue a subpoena for the 2018 Victorian state election writ. Why do I say that? Because I've shown this in our meetings before, and I showed this in public last week. The Victorian election writ for the senators of Victoria was written by Dan Andrews, not the governor, under the Queen of Australia. There is no such person as the Queen of Australia. A second subpoena for the freedom of information from the GAP party for the response from Kim Beazley, who is now no longer the governor of Western Australia, who never was a governor of Western Australia, is now going to be enforced. We've got the time to extract that document to show there are no governors in Australia to sign an election writ, state or federal. That destroys every election for at least 25 years. That's why we're going to be asking your help. I will write the document and we will find out in each state and territory, when was your last state or territory election? And when we do, we need to bring this paperwork together. So we're asking for your help. I'll do the document. We just need you to send it off. That's it. A request for the writ, nothing more. So this document will expose the fact the Commonwealth Constitution has been sidelined. It's been suspended. And the 2022 federal election was the most fraudulent election in our lives. Why? Because we knew about it before we voted on Saturday. Because the election writs were manufactured incorrectly the night before. We've got this proof. And we need to show that there's no more state of emergencies, no more pandemic laws, no more lockdown laws, if there are no governors to sign them into law. That's where we're coming from. The new document is in process, which I will share with the community of the fact of writing for getting the 2018 Victorian state election writ, which was fraudulent. Why? Because there's no governor. We've got the documentation now. We know what it looks like. We've got it ready. Okay, we just have to see the actual election writ, because what happened in the 21st of May, it was done under the Queen of Australia. Victorian politicians do not want to deal with anybody else except this Queen of Australia, which is a corporation. It's a myth. It has got nothing to do with the Queen of England. Nothing. It's a fabrication, and we are meant to accept it. This now engages members from each other state and territory across Australia, and we are seeking our members of our community to write this to their state lower house, the Assembly, and the upper house, the council of each other state. Now, Northern Territory, Queensland and the ACT, they all only operate under the Legislative Assembly. Queensland does not have an upper house, so you won't need to write to them. This is where we're coming from. We stand on the facts. We will show you, and I'll have that letter for both groups. We will write the letter for our members to write to your own state or territory members of parliament of the fact that no governors of a state exist. So we'll write to you and give you the election writ for the Senate election, or they will give them to you, and that document will be similar to the Senate election writ for the federal elections. It will be invalid because we've got the proof. Okay. This issue affects every Australian family and elector. And this is where social media is not catching up. They are not getting this. We've got the documents in cases right now. We've submitted this into the Supreme Court of New South Wales last Thursday morning. And this courageous lady, who's in our meeting this evening, has delivered the package requesting the Supreme Court, judges of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, to make a ruling. How can Dominic Perrottet write the election writ for senators when the governor was only a witness to the document according and comply with Section 12 of the Constitution? Section 12 says a governor may write the election writ for the Senate. And people come back and misunderstand what I just said. They may. I said yes, because 125 years ago, English law used the word may equals must. Look it up under Black's Law Dictionary. May equals must. So it is, in our language, the governor of the state must issue the writ for the election of senators. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. But if we don't have the election, we don't have that, then why do we need the Constitution? Well, because Anthony Albanese signed a document under Section 44 of the Constitution. He has only got one passport. Ooh, that sounds awkward. Yes, it is. It's called a constitutional crisis. And we will be asking your help, and I'll post it on Teachables in the morning, for you to make your request for the election writ for your state or territory election, your last election. And we need to get this from every corner of Australia. Okay. So what's happening is this is uncovering the serious issue that supports our cases in the courts. It will help and support Maria. It's going to help our people going into the Fair Work Commission. They have nowhere to hide. They can't block this. So your help is going to be useful to people, just to show we have 10, 15, 20, whatever the number of people who've got a response to prove the fraud. This affects families fighting to stop their repossession of their homes and farms and their businesses. This is happening now, but you won't ever hear this in the mainstream media. We stopped a home last week on 2 occasions with the sheriff in Victoria to enter a property because they had to deal with the criminal charges pending. It works. It works, and all those people on social media just can't work out what to do next because they can't keep up. This is what we do. We actually do the work and we prove it. EFP needs your help and participation to uncover every state and territory election writ. And when we get the last election for each state and territory, we've got to go back until the turn of the century. And I can guarantee you, we're going to show you how they have tried to mislead us by covering the Queen of the United Kingdom and introduce the Queen of Australia. And that's where we need your help. So, to follow every member to making an appeal or to be summoned into a Fair Work mediation, which is not a court, we are going to support our community by asking you to help us with these writs. They are central to making the point that these politicians have nowhere to go, and that includes the courthouses. EFP will write and provide the letters for your state assembly, the lower house, and state council, except Queensland, the upper house. And this is for the last state or territory election. This will prove to you and confirm the Constitution Act 1900 has been suspended. And there are all these people on social media saying, oh, but EFP says that they're scaremongering, it's all fear. We are going to prove it. We've got the document in Victoria. They suspended the Constitution on their own without telling anybody. These letters will be available on Teachables tomorrow. Okay, unlawful dismissal. This is something that is such a scary topic right now because no one understands what is going on. EFP has been chosen by many people now, it's growing, interstate more than in Victoria, to represent our members over lawyers and other union groups because they don't understand human rights. We are speaking in Fair Work Commission hearings, fighting for the rights and termination payments of teachers at the moment. And we had one lady who stood up and said to me that she wanted me to speak for her against the Northern Territory government. And I corrected them and said, it's called the Northern Territory of Australia Corporation with the ABN number, and they pay GST. The lawyer did not speak again after that statement. They're silenced, they're mute, because they don't know what to do when we explain to them they're a corporation, they've got to follow the company law called the Corporations Act. This is what you need to hear. It seems to be that most, if not nearly all the people attending these commission hearings are led to believe that they are going to be getting 4 to 6 weeks pay, which is reasonable, and a standard final payment. This is fraud. I'm calling it out now on this meeting, and it's going to go onto the internet tomorrow. I'm calling out the fraud because Fair Work is misleading and falsely lying to people against the federal laws, which is a $11 million fine. If we could bring people together on this point alone, and there are hundreds and hundreds of people that we don't know have gone through these illegal kangaroo courts, being told 4 to 6 weeks is all you're going to get for working for a company or a Department of Education or the Department of Health or a big corporation, and that's about it, have been lied to. This is what we found out. We have argued successfully for our members for the full 26-week payout, which is stipulated in the Fair Work Act 2009. That's the law. Not 4 weeks, 26. So where does the other money go? It goes back into profits. It stays with the Department of Education. It stays with the TAFE Commission. It stays with the Department of Health at our cost. We are standing up on Thursday this week to make the claim everybody in the teaching industry is going to know that they will be getting their 26 weeks under law, and this is going to turn them around. We don't have the support. I have to overstep my line to say, we're going to get this out on social media. What happens next is beyond my control. Anybody in this meeting, anybody you know in family who have been to a commission hearing and they were given 4 to 6 weeks, some people have been given $4,000 or $5,000 for working for 20 years, you have been misled. We know what to say and what to do under that law. And that's only the start. This is what we're trying to say to you. That's the first right that they steal from us. You are entitled to 26 weeks, which is 6 months. Before you lift a finger, that's the law. And then we'll deal with the second part in a moment. Because these corporations are desperate to conceal the law. That's why they're in a commission hearing, not a courthouse. Because the penalties will be crushing. If a big industry like teaching or the nursing industry came together to follow this, they could stop this problem right now. Because it's $11 million per person, per affidavit, to claim against wrongful, unlawful dismissal decisions. Per person. And we're doing that now in the case, in the tribunal against AHPRA as we speak. We follow this payment with this is the new word, the new phrase we're using, the compensation calculation claim for payment under the Australian taxation laws until the member attains the age of 67 years. We've got people who've contacted us who are still working, and God bless them that they still have the ability to work, and they have reached 67. So the compensation calculation claim does not apply because it's meant to be for people until they reach retirement age. We have a different way of approaching a substantial claim. Those members are not left out, and they are entitled to be looked after as well as anybody else. So this compensation calculation claim is almost complete to go into FAIRWORK this Thursday, and it's ready. And when it's closed off and it's been double checked by our wonderful friend Sharon, who is the author and creator of this document, who's given us the opportunity to put this with our affidavit and our class action process, this will be the template, and we're doing it in 3 days' time. That's what I want people to understand. The 26 weeks is the first payout. If someone has been unlawfully dismissed, that's the first thing that the FAIRWORK is allowed to give you. 26 weeks before you lift your finger and go any further. The compensation calculation claim is the secondary part alongside your affidavit, your story. And that's what we have got together. And Sharon knows our paperwork, and Sharon's paperwork is absolutely essential to making this happen. Now we need to bring people together. What happened last Tuesday? The day after Maria went to the tribunal and had a false start because they changed the date without her knowledge. That happens. It's not an error, it's not a mistake, it's planned. Dr. Mark Hobart, who I've had the pleasure to meet, a lovely man, he's a doctor. He's a medical professional. And he had to stand up in front of a Supreme Court and self-represent himself, which would have been no easy task. It is not easy to stand up in front of a Supreme Court, in front of a judge or justice, and try to make a legal argument, especially when your work has got nothing to do with it. This is what happened. Dr. Mark Hobart has been suspended, and he recently appeared in person, self-representing at the Supreme Court of Victoria on Tuesday, the 12th of July. He had a lot of people supporting him outside of his building because they made all the excuses about proving people got the rat test and that they didn't wear their masks and the whole 9 yards. They were removed from the courtroom. So he lost his support base for no reason. That's what they do. They don't want people to support people like Mark Hobart. Dr. Hobart is appealing, among other questions, the reinstatement of his title of doctor. And he has a claim for that. And that AHPRA has no right or authority to strip a doctor of their hard-earned medical title. It's not their place. They didn't give it, and they can't take it. And that's what they're doing. No other claim was made. As far as I understand, he did not make an actual claim. Now, you've heard me saying this before, and I said it tonight. We're going into a courthouse. It has a building, and what they do inside is business. They do claims and counterclaims. They don't do justice. They don't do common sense. They don't do law. They do claims. And if you don't make a claim, somebody else can make a counterclaim. It's very, very important. The difference with Maria on Monday, we didn't get to speak, but she had put in her affidavit with a claim, a substantial claim, which I'm not going to disclose because it's immaterial right now because it's still ongoing. And that's the difference. You have to understand it's a bank branch. They do money. They do business because they're registered for GST. They've got to make a profit to pay GST. Okay. AHPRA is the defendant. Mark Hobart took them into the Supreme Court. and they will have until Tuesday, the 19th of July, to file a defence against his statement about them taking his title. Then Dr. Hobart will have 1 week to make his rebuttal, to push back, to make his counterclaim, for the justice to decide on the papers. I'll say that again. The justice of the Supreme Court, not justice, that's what he wants, the justice of the Supreme Court to make a decision based on the paperwork. That's not trial. That's not giving you your natural rights. So yes, he's got 1 week to determine if he's going to be able to recapture his career as a medical doctor, or the court will vote in favour of AHPRA to say they had the right because he broke a mandate. He broke a directive, which does not exist in law. We will share the outcome following the court's decision in the next couple of weeks. I want people to get the truth. This is what's happened. We have got the paperwork, we've got the claim. We are arguing there is no national law to disbar Mark Hobart from losing his title and for being suspended. When we bring this together, then you can make your claim. And that's what we're standing on. I've just got to make that very clear where we're coming from. Now, at the back of all of this, there's legitimacy, the actuality of anything called any laws under these circumstances. In Victoria, we have been requesting, I have been personally writing to my upper house members of the council. There's the council upstairs and the assembly is downstairs in the parliament. I have written to my council members, no response after 1 week. We are seeking the 2018 State of Victoria election writ because they know where I'm coming from. I've written to them several times, I've called them, and they cannot produce the documents. We are seeking and asking every member here tonight, if you will join us, wherever you come from across Australia, and replicate what we're doing. You are just seeking a copy of a document which should be available to the public. No more, no less. The basis of our problems originate from the federal and state elections and the document that starts the democratic process, the right to vote in free and fair elections. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not been issued a fine. I can't get my case into the Supreme Court. I've been stifled, I've been distracted with them saying the election is done, it's been ratified, and Anthony Albanese has sworn his oath. He didn't swear an oath. He swore his oath to the Commonwealth of Australia. It should be to the Queen of the United Kingdom. He did not do so. We did not have free and fair elections. And that's all proven from the state of Victoria doing the writ under the Queen of Australia. EFP is seeking members in each state and territory to send our standard letter requesting a copy of the last state or territory election writ from our current politicians. If we don't do something now, they are going to be changing our laws and it won't be for our benefit. They've changed our laws to take away our certificates of title. We no longer have a document to say we own our home. It's gone. I can prove it in Western Australia in 2014, in Queensland in 2019, in Victoria in 2020, and New South Wales in 2021. The abolition of certificates of title acts to destroy the piece of paper protected by the Constitution for us to have exclusive right to our land. It's gone. And that is not about scaring anybody. This is where we are. So these documents will show that the Constitution has been suspended as Victoria only issued these writs under the Queen of Australia, which is a corporation. What does that mean? It's a business. It comes under every state law. The Queen of Australia is in the background to make it appear we have a queen. But there's no such thing. She can't appear if there's no such thing as the Queen of Australia. This is where we are. And a lot of people get upset because I'm telling the truth. So this is where I've spent my time to research with other good people in the courtrooms, and they can't answer the question, who is the Queen of Australia? Because Scott Morrison swore his oath to the Queen of Australia. No one knew about it. We did. Now you know. But Anthony Albanese did not swear to any queen, which means he's already thinking and taking us into being a republic. This is where we are. Okay, the people's class actions. Because we're still getting the questions, which group and how do you do this and why and what is this all about? For the purposes of this recording, we began the people's class action process at the beginning of this year. Why? Because we needed to bring people together. And we were not ready because we were comfortable, the sun was shining, there was no threat of the pandemic, and it appeared to have gone away. And the process is what we're going to be explaining to you tonight. We have a unique difference. No lawyer, no legal practitioner can make a claim with these documents called the EFP. And I've got the mistake on there. I'm going to call it what it is. We're going to call it the compensation calculation document, because we've got the way to say if you have broken the law, there's a claim coming. EFP is providing the affidavit template. If you have not joined, we have a group every Thursday night learning how to do an affidavit. What's an affidavit? Your statement of your truth. That's it. You are putting down what happened to you into a document which will be stamped by a justice of the peace to make it a legal document. And someone has to rebut it. Someone's got to challenge it. Right. This has got the personal stories of each member to record into their statement of truth with the additional documents we have certified by law by a justice of the peace. The final document is the compensation calculation claim. We are doing this on Thursday. We are submitting this document as a claim against this organisation, which is a company registered in Canberra with an ABN, which is not a department of the government, into a Fair Work hearing this week. So I'm saying it with a lot of emphasis because we're no longer talking. We're the only ones doing it because Fair Work know it's coming and they don't have an answer except to block. They are trying to block this woman from coming in because she lives outside of Sydney, and they want her to appear in person because it's more inconvenient for them to use their computer as you are doing right now. I'll say that again. They want her to drive from the Central Coast down to Sydney, as opposed to having this onto the internet on a video link, to make it as hard as possible, because she's been out of work now for over 9 months. Can you see a picture for me? This is meant to design to make it accessible to everybody. They're turning it upside down to make it as difficult as possible. This final document is constructed with an accountant for the gross figure claimed. We are not accountants, but Sharon has done an extraordinary job into making sure this document is not going to ever be challenged, because it's going into a Fair Work Commission hearing. And as far as I'm aware, I have not heard anybody else bragging or talking about it that they've already done this. We are seeming like to be the first group to put this into Fair Work for this woman to be compensated. Our members are making their claim for the unlawful dismissal. Let's get the wording right. Not unfair. That's incorrect. It's unlawful dismissal based on the fact that COVID-19 has never been isolated. Yes, we've got that document from the TGA. We've got it. That's part of our paperwork. They have to work out what they're going to do. If they can't show that it's been isolated and there is a real thing called COVID-19, they can simply write out a check according to the compensation calculation claim. And that's the fact that there is no such legal instrument or piece of paper called a mandate or a directive. That is the law by any chief health officer in any state or federal. There's no proof. It's just a mandate. It's a bunch of words. It's not a law. We've tested this, and magistrates do not want to answer this question. Is a mandate or a directive a law? They will leave the courtroom before they say anything. This is where we are. We're being misled. It is not about law, and it's not about a virus. It's about money. Okay. These actions are based on a community of members in each industry under the protection of the United Nations International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, 1980. You heard that. 1980. We signed this treaty 42 years ago. And people say, oh, but you keep repeating it. I say, I repeat it because no one knows Article 7 when they go to a commission hearing. Or their boss is going to say, we have to let you go. Or you have to go to court to fight and challenge a fine because you can't pay a $5,000 fine. Article 7 of this international covenant gives you protection if you want to use it. Consent required to be part of a medical experiment. That's it. You've got to give permission. Instead of saying, oh, but I don't want to. I don't like it. They are not going to accept that. But when you say, do you have a permission above the United Nations to wipe out this international treaty? They've got nothing. We say that to them. Do you have an exemption from the United Nations? And of course, they can't answer it because they don't have one, because they're committing a fraud. That's why we make this special emphasis. If you know this, Article 7, I'm telling you, and you test it once, you will never let that go, and you'll take that with you everywhere. We are discussing this every Thursday night in our People's Class Action meeting at 7:30 p.m. every Thursday night until we can get people to say, we are using this and it's working and they are not touching us. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a war. We're in a spiritual war. There's a group of bad people out there thinking to scare us and threaten us with a fake virus because we've tested this, and they're saying you have to do this because of a mandate. There's no law. There's no law anywhere. And we are saying we are using the tools that we have available to us. When we become like Dutch farmers, well, this will turn very, very quickly. That's why we need your help. We don't wake up in the morning saying, how do we get lots of people on social media to like us? That's not what we do. We're doing this in FAIRWORK. That's what we do. So we're asking your help. When I write you the letters, have a look at them. There'll be nothing else on there except you making a request. On behalf of your family, I want to see a copy of the document for the last state or territory election. That's where we are. So for the purposes of this recording, how do you join the class action? You jump on our website at www.educateforprotection.website. If you scroll down the page, you'll see the tabs for People's Class Action, and there's one next to it called Grand Jury. Grand Jury is not ready yet. We don't have enough people. I'm embarrassed to say we have people writing to us and say, why wouldn't every Australian just put their name on there? And I said, because we're not ready. We're not ready. We don't understand the phrase, united we stand, divided we fall. We don't understand it. And I say that with my hand on my heart because I live here too, and we've got a job to do because we've never been here before. We've never been threatened by another country. On our land, we've been threatened on the coast, but not on our land, not on our property. We've never been overtaken by another country. As my father would say, we've never been through hunger and starvation. Say that to a European. because they know. We've never been there. And I say that with respect to everybody here. We haven't been through those hard times. And that's why we just don't grab grand jury. Yes, it's everybody's right. And we're here, we're ready, we've got the paperwork, we know what to do. We just haven't reached enough people yet. And I thank every one of you here tonight watching this on Monday the 18th, and everybody who watches this from tomorrow onwards. I need your help to get people to watch this recording from tomorrow onwards. We've commenced our first closed meeting, and this subject is a key part of our action towards grand jury. So we're moving along the process to doing your affidavits. And I've made the assurance, no one will be left behind who's never done one before. Because I was there once myself. My first affidavit was as soft as a pink marshmallow. That was the comment I got. There was nothing there. I get it. I'm giving you documentation I use to fight in court. That's part of my way to say you will have a document which will have some power behind it. We're asking you that if you haven't joined us and you're thinking what we're doing, I'll give you an email address in a moment, and join us as soon as you can, because we need to get your affidavits finished. It's a process. This is urgent. The People's Class Actions Group have commenced, and we don't want anybody who's thinking about it to miss out. Because too often people call me when the sheriff is at the door, literally at the door. That's when I get phone calls, and I can't do it anymore. It takes time. It takes some breathing space to get documents out. To support our actions of us fighting in the courts, we have an annual membership of $200 a year. And some people have lost their jobs, and we say we understand. And we say, well, we have another fee of $20 a month. And I've got people who've lost their homes. And I said, no one is going to be left out. Put your name on the People's Class Action and we'll stay and keep you plugged in. I put my hand on my heart to say thank you to everybody who supported us, because without your support, that's the only funding we get. We don't get any help from the government or corporations. They want me shut down. I've been warned, I've been threatened, and I've been told to stop. And that gives me the encouragement to say to you, because you're here, we don't sell t-shirts or caps. We don't sell protein powder to make you bigger and stronger like a Arnold Schwarzenegger. We don't sell anything. We don't sell any other products. This is what we're doing. We stand by you judging us. And that's where we are right now, showing you we're in the tribunal fighting for every Australian now with Maria's case. We can only continue with your support, because if that stops, it means we've missed the mark. We've missed something and we did not deliver. And we're letting people down because we don't have the resources. We don't have a team of people answering phones and answering emails every day. We have a very small group. But we still say thank you for believing in us, because this is where we are now. You are our judges. You will let us know when we meet or we don't meet your expectations. And I encourage you to tell us if we're doing anything wrong or anything right. Because this is a journey that we never expected to happen outside of Victoria. I take more phone calls from Sydney than my own home city of Melbourne. That's where I am. The compensation calculation claims template. This document is deliberately called now the compensation calculation claim, because we have put a lot of time to get this right. And Sharon, who created this document from New South Wales, has allowed us to use it because we have got that alongside an affidavit. So I say thank you to Sharon for allowing us to have this amazing document, which took an exhausting amount of time to put together. This is a very technical document. I'm not an accountant, neither is Sharon. And we need to get this absolutely correct before we give it to somebody to go into a FAIRWORK or a court. Is specific for each industry, because there are different commission rates, or different percentage rates, I should say, for long service and benefits and tax rates. We are not tax accountants. We need accountants to confirm those particular details to make it correct under the federal taxation laws from the Commonwealth, from Australia. Okay. The example we have used in previous EFP meetings are for a teacher from Victoria. The examples will not be identical for a teacher in another state or territory, where different long service and benefits entitlements are calculated differently. So we're saying to you, please give us a call if you are in that position that you're being threatened. We would love to be able to speak to more teachers because they have got a power, they have muscle because of their numbers. The same thing applies to the nursing fraternity. The difference is nursing comes under AHPRA, which is the whole country. It's not fragmented into states and territories. Teaching is specific for a state or territory, but they still have muscle. Why? The numbers. The numbers are critical in this fight. And lots of people call me and they say, we're just keeping a watch. We've got a few people coming to your meeting to seeing how you're going. We're in court right now against AHPRA, but there's no support. There's no support. We don't have any Dutch farmers in Australia. I say that deliberately because this is where we are. So once again, those people who've trusted us, we thank you with our whole heart, because without you, we couldn't do this. EFP with Sharon will create a gross claim, a total figure of your unpaid wages until you reach 67. Then Sharon has got the intimate knowledge now and understanding about long service benefits and leave and all the other benefits you're entitled to, which will be different in different industries. But when we get that right, you have an untouchable, toxic document for your former employer. And that will become the attachment to your EFP affidavit. And why we are not being knocked over by people bombarding us with these calls, because we're all sitting comfortably at the moment, hoping somebody else will do this. Ladies and gentlemen, it's on now. 2 weeks ago, every health minister went to Canberra. They unanimously agreed the minimum 4 booster shots is now the standard to be minimum vaccinated. If you do not have 4 booster shots, you will be unvaccinated, period. This is where we are right now. I have always said it in the last few months, it is past midnight and it's ready for the bell to be rung. Why? Because they're moving ahead with their agenda while we're still thinking about it. This is where Sharon's document, the compensation calculation claim, is essential to making a statement. If we can bring numbers together, it's going to hurt. But it won't be out of their pockets, it'll come out of taxpayers' pockets. Because it's coming from the inverted commas, the government. And if we could come together, they would stop and crumble very, very quickly. Right. Challenging your fines in court. I've got to clarify this because people still misunderstand because they only take what they want to hear, not what is the truth. We have a workshop program and it's got new documentation as of the last few months from what we have tested, and it's working. The police do not want to take people into court after we challenge them, and we do it respectfully and we do it with patience. And we ask them, what are you going to do to report the crime of the criminal charges against Dan Andrews? But we have a different twist to this. We've modified our approach. We are challenging illegal fines in courthouses in 4 states and 1 territory. And the courts do not want them. And when they do, we come back twice as hard because then we bring in federal law. Okay, our program, for me to give you our attention and this work, is $395. Why do we do that? Because this is what has been keeping us going and keeping us to fight in court. But this is what I offer you. You won't get a letter from a lawyer for $395. That's fixed forever. If you get a fine this week and another fine next week, it's still the same figure. Why? Because we put them all together. This is to cover our costs, not to make a profit, as some people on social media think. Because I will stand with you for the first court hearing, the second court hearing, the third court hearing, and any more after that. You can't get that from a lawyer for half an hour. Half an hour. They won't even give you the time. And they'll only do with one fine, and they'll charge you thousands. Okay. All of your fines are combined together. You won't hear that from anybody else to go into your court cases. We write your affidavit, you get the criminal charges document, and you have a counterclaim for damages. Why? Because there's no contract from the other side, the police force corporation. This is fixed, irrespective how many times you appear in court, for how many fines. It doesn't concern us. We list them in your affidavit. Your enrolment in our fines workshop supports our work to fight the public cases in court, such as the fraudulent federal elections, which has not begun because we are being frustrated at the Supreme Court in Victoria. It's not the end of the process. We are also supporting other cases which affect everybody. We are fighting to stop members paying tax invoices to a corporation. We're not paying fines to a police force. We're paying tax invoices to a corporation registered at Canberra. And that's been proven in the last week. We are engaging with cases proving the Victoria and New South Wales Police cannot defend the Crimes Act. And you're going to be saying, you must be kidding. No, I'm not kidding, because we challenge them outside the courtroom. Can they stand under the Crimes Act? And they don't answer the question. We should be outraged. They say you're going to go back to the courtroom and ask the judge. And we say, but you're wearing the uniform and you're wearing a gun. So which laws do you stand under? They can't answer the question because they're privately owned. They're a business like McDonald's, except they can wear a gun. And some of you are going to say something afterwards and say, this is not possible. Well, it is, because I've said every police force, every Supreme Court, most 95 or more % of councils are all registered as corporations on the 1st of November, 1999. If that's not the New World Order in action, please help me. Send me a message. They're all corporations, they're all businesses. Please join our weekly meetings. Please tell this to your friends, because we need to get the Dutch farming mentality in Australia. I can't stress that enough. We haven't got that mentality. We're not coming together. Juries and grand jury. I've got to repeat this again, because we're just not bringing it together. In Victoria, we are fragmented. Why? Because we're comfortable. But we have a group of people forming juries in New South Wales because they've now understood, because they've been to court and they get it. So I congratulate the people and our friends in New South Wales for grabbing it and taking it on. And that's where we need to be. We will continue to make the argument for the uniting of Australians into juries. A jury is a group of 12 people with no borders. It doesn't matter where you come from, because we're all connected by our phone and our internet with our video links like tonight. Just bring together 12 people who say, we understand there's something wrong, but we don't understand. What do we do next? We will give you a writ. We will give you a document, and you will make a decision. Did this person break the law knowing about this piece of paper called a writ? And you will make a decision. And we need to bring that unity around the jury, which is what would happen if you went to a court and somebody said they have a jury trial. Under the Constitution, it's everybody's right to have a jury trial, to be judged by 12 people equal to you. Not a judge. Okay. The goal is to uniting people within a state electorate. That's the goal. That's what we're aiming for. With a minimum of 23 people, we say you've got to aim for 30 because somebody will have work commitments, somebody will have family commitments, somebody will not be well. And if you can't have 23 people, you haven't got a grand jury. That's the minimum for grand jury. And as we say, allow for absentees and for family and work commitments. So aim for 30 because somebody will not be able to appear. Where can you meet? In someone's backyard. You can meet in the park. You can meet in a restaurant or a coffee shop or McDonald's. Doesn't matter. This is for the formation of grand jury, which has almost been taken away from us. Victoria is the last remaining state or territory that still has grand jury in the Crimes Act. And they're trying to hide it, but they didn't legislate it out. It's only available in Victoria. But because treason is the discussion of grand jury, it applies to everybody who watches this recording, wherever you live. So what do? You get together, you put down a bunch of names, and you have a discussion. Who's the first person? You have a debate. Some will say yes, some will say no. You decide if that person has broken treason. And then you decide, is this person in breach of treason? What's treason? A breach of the oath of allegiance to the Queen of the United Kingdom. And someone's going to say, I have no interest in the Queen and her family. That's not the question. The question is the Constitution of our country, the document that made our country and brought all the colonies into a state or states. I am not English, I don't have English blood, and there's many people I know in this meeting who are not English either. But we want that Constitution back. It was taken from us without referendum. Because we had a referendum on the 6th of November, 1999. Hold on. So you're saying on the 1st of November, everything became a company, the police, the Supreme Courts, and courts and councils, and 5 days later we had a vote and we said no. Correct. We said no to the Republic. We've never had a referendum since the 6th of November, 1999. It's been stolen from us. That's what I'm talking about. Australians need to understand the reason of the Dutch farmers coming together to push back against the extreme climate change policies, and we need to understand that is affecting us now. It's as simple as this. They have led the way in Europe to show every other country bigger than them how to come together for a common cause. They started it, and the people are on their side, knowing they might have to go through some hardship and they may not get a bottle of milk tomorrow morning, but they're prepared to stand behind the Dutch farmers. The jury process is to unite us into groups of 12 people without a boundary, without a location, doesn't matter about geography. Then we reach out for people in our community, in a state electorate, for uniting groups of 30 people into grand jury. This is our way of coming together like the Dutch farmers, because we don't have time. We literally do not have time. Why? Because it's on the internet. The new standard in spring is going to be 5 and then 6 booster shots. I'm not here to scare you. It's on the internet. That's where they want to be before Christmas. 6. That's why we have no time. This is going to be published. Only the recording, not the questions. I've just got to get this out because this is what we've learned. What does that mean for people who are trying to get past the conditions of a policy for their company? And they say, well, if you don't have 4 shots, we're going to have to let you go because of the mandate. But then if you get the 4 shots, they're going to say you have to go to 5. And then 6, it won't end. it won't end. We have to understand, we have to make a decision. I won't go through these recordings. We're going to give you this on a fact sheet. For people who have not come to these meetings, you need to understand we've got some great video material. Some of them are short, some of them take an hour. And I can guarantee you, the one that takes an hour, I'll point it out to you in a moment, you won't be disappointed. Some people who just don't get it, it won't matter. They'll say, oh, look, I'm not interested in that birth certificate stuff and the New World Order, I'm not interested. If you do have a little interest, I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed. This video, Who Owns the United States? It made my jaw drop. They found the treaties and the laws to make United States, which we're connected to come under another country. I'll let you watch it to see for yourself. And that country is owned by another country. And that's the part that shook me. Okay. The next one, the causal links of treason and misprision of treason. If you don't know this subject, this is a really important video to watch for the fact of telling you this is what we don't see. This is what's hidden. You've got the link. You'll get this on an electronic format to copy it and paste it. Don't worry about writing it down. I've got that for you for tomorrow morning. It's essential, and I underline essential, to watch Warcastle's NWO and Warcastle's ~0. That's the squiggle, the negative, the minus sign, and a 0. We've got both of those recordings. Really, really important to watch them, because this man, Sergeant Horton, does a great job in explaining the expression that you all would have heard, you're worth your weight in gold. It's not a fairy tale. That expression is how your birth certificate is started, by your birth weight. And that pot of gold starts your birth certificate transactions. You really need to look at those two videos. Jeremy Lee, this man knew about the New World Order before the internet. How he did this in 1991 will take your breath away. What he uncovered at least 10 or more years before we came across the internet. He knew back then. And the last one is the planned surrender of Australia in 1989. My gosh, that far ago, they knew the New World Order was being set up to take over Australia and to take away our rights to our property. 1989. We've got those links. They're all sitting there waiting for you. And because we're getting a high number of people calling us up about questions they don't want to speak about in the Zooms, we have to put this in place to say you have a way to call us, to book in a time, and I'll give you 1 hour of my time to explain where you're coming from and what our remedy is. And we do have a remedy. We are not here just to give you some advice and point you to another group or to give you a piece of paper. We have remedy. And this is what's getting everybody upset, because we talk about remedy and we do it in court. We actually deliver because they can't keep up. So there it is on our screen. You can book a call. At the top of the screen is a space to just click on there and put your details down. And I will give you my undivided attention. This is our way of being able to reach people who just can't ask their questions in a public space because they've got a personal aspect or it's embarrassing. And I understand that. And that's why we don't record the questions. As much as I'd love to keep them, I'm respecting your wishes, and we do not record the questions. So when they're finished and we go to the end of the night, they're gone. And that's what you've asked for, and I said I respect it. So this is what we're saying, how to reach me if you have anything else further than what we talk about tonight. We're going to give you a screenshot of this. So you don't have to write this down if you don't have a pen, or you don't have your mobile phone next to you. Connecting with us on our email, is called EFP admin at educateforprotection.website. And we check it as often as we can, but you can understand after we do a Zoom, the calls and the emails spike. They go straight up. And it does give us, we do need to take a couple of days to catch up and get through the inquiries, because people are now asking good questions. What do we do next? Where do we go? I'm about to lose my job because I don't want to agree to a mandate. What do we do? And give us a chance, because we are going to be spiked tomorrow, because now we've proven anybody who's been to a commission hearing or a mediation and you were given 4 or 6 or 8 weeks, which is overly generous for them, you have been misled and deceived because you didn't know. And I'm expecting, with your help to get this out, the minimum you are entitled to, if you have been unlawfully suspended or terminated, is 26 weeks straight away, backed up by Australian Fair Work Act law. That's the minimum. And most, if not nearly all, the people we speak to are given 4 to 6 weeks and told take it or leave it. And it's a fraud. It's a lie. When the law says from Parliament, a company is entitled to give you 26 weeks. We need to be angry about this, because we all know somebody who's unlawfully lost their jobs and now they're under extreme pressure what to do to pay the bills and buy food for the family and put food on the table. It shouldn't be this way, but that's what happened. Our website, www.educateforprotection.website, very similar to the email. You scroll down the page, and please, if you do put your name down to the People's Class Action or the Grand Jury or both, your information is private and confidential with us. It doesn't go outside of our group. And we will be getting messages to you directly to say we're not close enough yet, we're nearly there, or we're going to start this People's Class Action first because of the numbers. We will keep you in touch. It stays in-house. So to deal with the questions that somebody might have, is your information private and safe? I treasure you joining us. And yes, it is private and confidential. Okay. That brings me to the end of the recording. I'm going to say thank you to everybody for listening to what we have to say, because there are a lot of people who have been affected by unlawful dismissal, which is the biggest problem in our country right now. Why? It's not going to slow down. It is not going to ease off. It is not going to go back to normal, because companies are looking to readjust and get rid of staff, and they're encouraging Fair Work and the commissions to push people to a deal to pay the minimum amount of money so they can save money. This is corruption on such a level, I can't even begin to explain it to you. Why? Because we have laws to protect us, and they're lying to us. But we won't be accepting this on Thursday, because next week, I hope I can speak to that lady, if she has the wish to do so, is to explain her story, what happened in Fair Work, because we're putting in the compensation calculation claim with her details for payment under law until she's 67. And this is where we're coming from. The rubber has now hit the road, and we're doing it in 3 days' time. And I will be happy to share that with you, because that's going to be the road mark for us to say to all the teachers in every state or nurses across Australia, you can fix this problem because of your numbers. They've heard me saying it, and they're all sitting back watching to see what we're going to do next. So we will close the recording now.